All right, Claiborne County Sports Zone is once again out at Claiborne High School to do the Coach Lee show with Coach Lee here. Had a rough Friday, last Friday, 56-8, I think it was. But I'm sure your players learned a little bit from that game. What's your reactions?
Yeah, I mean, they were a good football team. I may sound like a broken record this year, but you see. I'd say one thing about our kids is they're battle tested. That's for sure. They know they see what it takes, to be a good football team. But like the first half, really the big thing for me, the one word that kind of came up was disappointment. And the kids will tell you the same thing. We were disappointed in the lack of effort. They were making mistakes they ain't made in weeks. So very uncharacteristic. We thought we'd right the ship, with Johnson County. But you play a good football team, a really talented football team like Gatlinburg-Pittman, they take advantage of everything, and boy did they.
Yeah, they'll exploit your weaknesses, and they did. There's a lot of points scored in the first half, but how was their performance in your opinion?
Yeah, defensively, our defense, we had some good run fits. There was times, linebackers got lost a little bit. Defensive ends done a pretty good job, taking on the pullers. But really, Gatlinburg-Pittman's not trying to get outside. They want to hit, inside the tackles. And if they get a crease, they've got some fast running backs. But defensively, they started playing a lot better in the second half. Really into the second quarter. We've seen, if they would have played football the same way they did in the second quarter that they should have in the first, it wouldn't have been near as awful as it looked on the scoreboard. But they was uncharacteristic mistakes, punting right to a kid. If they've got speed, you want to punt it away from them. We punted it right at him. He took one back, missing tackles. They're going to run through an arm tackle. But no, it was defensively. The second half they played a lot better than they did in the first.
Okay, your offense didn't manage any points. Was their defense that good, or was once again your team not doing their jobs?
Yeah, we found it really quick. Our kids were taking the wrong steps offensive line wise. We were going flat rather than attacking the guy, which we talked. We talked about their stunts. Gatlinburg-Pittman runs a 3-4, and their defensive line slants, and they run stunts like crazy. He may be lined up outside the tackle, but end up right beside the center at the snap of the ball. That's just how fast they are. But no, we weren't taking good angles at all. Getting blown off the ball. We had a new face in at center. Pierce Tong was learning. He's still got some things to learn. But it's just you can teach steps all day, every day, but if you don't have the drive and aggressiveness it takes to play offensive line, anybody can. Fundamentally, technically, anybody can blow you up.
Overall, you got a positives in the second half, offensively and defensively both. Compare the two halves.
Yeah, second half they played a lot better. I think our first drive of the second half we marched right down and scored. We ran the football pretty well. We really was running the football pretty well in the second quarter. Just didn't get the first downs we needed. But in the second half, they finally started playing better. Which of course, Gatlinburg-Pittman took out their starters. It was like their starters, their 1As, really their 1B because they've got nothing but seniors and juniors over there pretty much. But they played a lot better in the second half. Offensively, execution was there. Caden Levin was running around everywhere. It was good to see him, be a little bit more mobile, throwing the ball pretty well. So it's it was tale of two halves pretty much.
What do you think about improving the team through coaching? What can you work on? Is it just the same stuff? Is it fundamentals and doing your job? Is it that simple?
I think really they walked in. Gatlinburg-Pittman's beautiful. It's the great campus. They've
big,
got
humongous team.
Exactly, massive team. They've got a really nice football facility. You can get to a kid's mind pretty quickly. But fundamental wise, they were doing their job. It's just execution wasn't there. Yeah. Steps were wrong. We had a blown assignment on a couple coverages. We've talked about it for weeks. We played Johnson County. If you got flats, you play the deepest defender, and then you rally up and make a tackle. We played the up band, and they threw it right behind him. So it's just then that was Sean Vlad, but he knows he knows they knew the mistakes, and that's one thing that kind of upset me the most was because they knew the mistakes they were making, but
Did they do anything that you didn't game plan for?
No, it was exactly.
We knew what they
were going to do. Yeah. Coach West knew exactly what they want to do on offense. The big thing against Gatlinburg-Pittman is they run a various amount of formations, trying to get leverage in certain positions, and jet sweep. They really didn't get the ball outside. That was probably one of our main coaching points, but we just didn't fit it in between the tackles like we needed to.
All right, Chucky Doak.
Yep.
Next.
Yep.
What are they going to try to do?
It's Coach Kaler over there has done a really good job. They've improved a lot since last year. But they're a young team. They're figuring things out. He's doing a good job, investing in those kids. They're learning. You can tell on film. They've won a couple ball games this year. They looking at their offense is almost kind of like a mirror image because they run a lot of the same sets we do. They've got same amount of skill kids we do, but they execution from last year to this year looks 10 times better. But offensively, they're going to take what's there. Like if you load the box, they're going to throw it. Vice versa, the other way around. Defensively, they're a 4-3, 4-2-5, cover 2. Has a pretty good defensive lineman, good linebacker, pretty good skill kids in the secondary. So they're a solid football team.
What does your team need to do to go in there and compete?
From the first whistle, we've got to demand that we're here to do our job and we're going to execute regardless of what whatever they try to do to stop us, and make sure that this week we're prepared. We had a really good day of practice yesterday, slowed it down, kind of rehearsed some things, like revisited some old things that we ain't taught probably since spring. The kids really enjoyed that. But yeah, just execute. Execute the game plan, listen to what their coaches say, and just 100% buy-in and do your job.
How are they defensively? How do they match up with your offense?
They've got some size. They've got some pretty good size. They have a number 8 linebacker. He's pretty good. Finds himself in the play just about all the time. They're pretty disciplined on the back end. So they play flats pretty hard. But they also they drop. Make sure no one's going behind them. So they match up fairly well with our offense, but I think we've got a good game plan set in stone.
How will your offense try to attack? Is it going to be probably a mix of both?
Yeah, a mix of both. And honestly, we're kind of expanding our playbook a little bit this week. It's going to look a little bit different. We're going to buy in a little bit more of Caden Levin's mobility. He's looking pretty good, feeling more comfortable. So we're going to buy into that. Throwing a couple different sets this week. We've been practicing for a bit, but I think kids have got it down enough to start running it. So really just, it's going to look a little different, but it's all the same stuff.
Yeah. Excuse me. What are the keys to getting a win at Chucky Doak?
No mistakes, no stupid mistakes, no botched snaps, no penalties. That's going to cost us. Put us in the 1st and 25, 1st and 15. Don't get behind the sticks. Tackle, wrap up, play physical. Do your assignment to the best ability you can, and because the kids are in shape. Our kids are in pretty good shape. It's just a matter of executing for 4 quarters. And I think the kids are motivated to do it. They're tired of losing. I am too. It's been a tough season so far. Non-conference isn't exactly the easiest, but you take what you get and you just go fight whoever's against you.
Okay, not mentioning any names, but along the way, you've told me that certain coaches have said certain things to you. What's some of the good things that them coaches told you, or those coaches told you?
Probably the one that always hangs up on me is it's never as bad as it looks. It's never as good as it looks. So they all, I've had some good mentors in my early coaching career, and the guys are they keep telling me just hang in there. It's gonna start hitting at some point. The schedule will get a little bit lighter, here and there, but the kids will figure it out, and just keep investing in them, and they're gonna pay you back. So
well. You look at what Nick's done over there. He struggled the first year. Are you expecting your team to kind of go along that route, where the second year is a lot better than the first?
It really just depends on how much of the off-season program they buy into. Which we've got a good group of seniors this year. I'll still keep saying that. We've not been they've been done dirty, as some would say. With the non-conference schedule, but When you find games that you can find games, I guess. But no, they fought. You know, they're going to continue fighting. We've gotten better every single week this season, and like it's going to continue to show. You know, like looking ahead in the future. You know, it's just really getting a good weight program, getting these kids in shape, getting them, you know, to play football. Like, you know, playing football is a lot different than just going and lifting weights for, you know, 10 months out of the year and then playing football for 2. Like, there's a lot more to it, a lot more explosiveness, technique that, you know, we need to coach those things up.
Let's talk about the middle school.
Mm-hmm.
So they did something pretty rare, is go up to Oneida and get a win.
Mm-hmm.
How excited are you to get some of them players up here?
I mean, they've got a good coaching staff down there. You know, Coach Kenny's done a pretty good job getting those kids to buy in. He may not know all the X's and O's, but you know, he's a master motivator, I guess, as you'd say. But yeah, I'm excited to get those kids there. They're, you know, where I'm already at SMS, those kids are eager to get after it. You know, they're already asking, hey, when can I come work out? When can we start, you know, with the, you know, intertwining? I'm like, you got to wait a little while. But no, like they've got a good Youngtown group out there. See a lot of kids contributing next year, possibly, as long as they get in the weight room and, you know, do what they need to do outside of school.
Lastly, give us an injury update.
Getting somewhat healthy again. You know, Eli Keck was a little banged up last week. Got rolled up on the Johnson County game. Didn't get to finish that game. We're going to try and, you know, trial run him here and see how it goes. So he'll get to go today. Caden Levin's still moving better. You know, he's continuing to get better as we go through. Aiden O'Rourke, you know, he's beating it battered, but
he's tough.
He's beating it battered, but he, you know, he's got some hip issues. It's just because he's an old man. He wears 1,000 braces, but he's good. But other than that, I think, you know, we're looking pretty healthy rolling into week to week.
All right. Well, once again, thank you for inviting me to your home up here.
Anytime.
And best of luck Friday.
Thank you, Alan.